Okay, episode 3, Father Knows Best. I always think it's cute when Corey's like making the sandwich like his dad. Want to be like dad? And then Morgan's like, I want to see the Blue Angels. She has an attention span of 2 seconds. Whoop, there she goes. But I do appreciate that he did that. You do? At least one more time. Eric's second neck. Leonard Spinelli. It always trips me out because I always know him as Stanford from Sex and the City, Willie Garson. He's so good, and it's funny how he plays 2 more characters later in Boy Meets World. He plays like a guy going for a job at the wilderness store that Alan gets later, and then he actually marries Topanga and Corey. Yeah, a dad would probably think it's a good idea to wake their kid up in the middle of the night to drink soda and eat food and watch a game, even though they got to be up early for school tomorrow. Hey, plumbers make bank. This was another good moment of how they illustrate the non-children having and the children having people and how differently they view things. And this is also a moment where I really see that Mr. Feeney is really hard in this one. Like, he's almost really unlikable in this scene. He's just like, nope, the F stands. Here's a question. Is Lenny Spinelli a good assistant manager? I'm not sure. It is also interesting how this episode illustrates that even though Mr. Feeney was wrong, yet he was kind of right. Like, both adults were kind of wrong and both right. And it shows that kind of confusing. That gray area. Sometimes it's like there's not just a straight answer sometimes. I always love when Mr. Feeney's out there and he's like, here, get a drink. And Corey thinks it's alcohol. Of course it wouldn't be alcohol. This is Mr. Feeney we're talking about. Mr. Feeney's story about his dad not wanting him to stay up with him was kind of sad, but it was a good moment because his earlier moment was so harsh. So this brought it back to the feels moment with Mr. Feeney. And I do agree with Mr. Feeney. Education is not just about test scores and just the regular idea of what education people think of upon education. It really is the overall absorption of a lifetime of concepts, philosophies, etc. I really like the way he explained that. But then again, it's Mr. Feeney. He pretty much explains everything great. What was great with Alan and Mr. Feeney is that they both came to see each other's point of view and was like, I get it. And I really love that. I can't hold my breath long enough to get down to where Mr. Feeney likes to swim sometimes. I love that. Okay, so talking about episode 3 of the podcast. Oh my God, Bill and Bonnie, almost 71 years of marriage is amazing. I always forget that he is married to her when she came on the show, but that is goals. That is bravo, amazing. And just their meeting, though, was so cute when they met. Oh my God, the Feeney fanatics chasing their car, jumping on the car, that's intense. And just listening to Bill and Bonnie talk was just thoroughly enjoying. And it was just thorough enjoyment. I mean, the projects that Bill has worked on throughout his life are just epic. Such a legend. Tulips on the organ. Ha. I'm so glad that Danielle cries too on the last scene with Feeney saying class dismissed, I love you all in that last episode, because I was welling up with her. Like, I'm glad to know I'm not the only one. And you know, Bonnie is very right about this show. It is a healthy show. That is a really good way of putting it. And originally, I did know Bill as the voice of Kit on Knight Rider. Hasselhoff fans. I do have to agree that Russ really was a cool dad in the sense of just he was very fluid and it was very natural for him to be the way he was on the show. Hey, chips on a sandwich. That's the truth, man. And yeah, I do agree that the gender roles were pretty strong in this episode, but honestly, I felt that it was kind of a gentle way of doing it, and like almost non-threatening, non-overbearing, almost an innocent way, like I'm not trying, like not trying to be offensive kind of way. I didn't personally get the Home Improvement vibe. I loved Home Improvement too. I just felt those are two really different shows, obviously, but I didn't really get the Home Improvement vibe and what they were saying. But that's my personal take on it. I always knew that Betsy was a recurring guest on Home Improvement, which I thought was cool that she then got her own show. And then I did forget that Ryder was on Home Improvement. I think one episode. Having to listen to your theme song for 2 hours on a float, that does seem pretty awful. And I don't really feel like Alan necessarily snubbed Eric. I get why he's saying that, but I think it's funny because then later Corey feels left out of Eric and Alan's relationship later, especially concerning sports. So it's kind of came full circle later, I feel like. And it's funny, I totally thought that grocery bag did in fact look weird. So that was an interesting factoid. And while the plumber joke certainly didn't age well, plumbers do make a lot of money. And on one hand, I kind of saw it like Minkus was, just maybe the insecure nerd, or in the way that they said it, he wouldn't be bullied, but either way, I just felt that it was kind of kid ribbing. I didn't really feel like it was a mean-spirited situation. Corey was goofy to spill the beans in front of his mom, but the grounded comment is funny, and that is pretty awkward for Ryder's son to ask about that. That's an awkward moment. What does that mean, Dad? And then at the end, I definitely don't think that, when Alan is talking to Mr. Feeney, I agree with Danielle. I wouldn't have had that conversation with Corey, but it was Corey's show, so Will made the good point that it's yeah, they kind of had to have that conversation with Corey there because it was from his perspective. And when Alan calls Mr. Feeney a butt, that is hilarious. I agree. And yes, how much of the store is left? Still. I'm glad they brought up the fence when Corey goes over the fence, because really, even without their knowledge of the show, you can tell, there is no way Corey would not have seen Mr. Feeney sitting right there. That always kind of irked me, because I was yeah, that's not really feasible. And yeah, why would Feeney have two chairs? It is kind of weird, but Corey really did play that whole moment very well, very mischievous. He did play it perfectly. And just everything that Feeney ever says, even though it's maybe a short time, all of his stories, just the way he tells it, are just enthralling. And they made a really good point that we did get some of that backstory with Feeney, with the whole his dad obviously drank, and that's why he doesn't drink. Very subtle, very classy. I think this episode is a good showcase of, even if you know you'll get the F, it's still the right thing to do. Two people can be wrong and right at the same time. All four things can be true. Once again, Ryder's son, Indy, is so cute. Very good personality. And to answer the question, we actually do find out why Feeney doesn't have kids. It's actually it's close, I think it's in the last season, or it's closer to the end of the show. But we do get an answer. So that is coming. And I did always think it was weird when Corey was like, oh yeah, my dad's not coming back tonight. I don't think it was appropriate to have that conversation in front of Corey, but again, it was his show, but it was kind of a pretty out there joke for a kid's show. And Ryder's son asking that was pretty awkward. Oh, what's that mean? But honestly, it does always trip me out that Corey was like, oh yeah, he's not coming back tonight. It's that just never felt right. So I do agree with them on that. I do feel bad for Ryder because like, he did kiss a lot of girls in upcoming here pretty soon, I think next season. And that's going to be awkward for him to watch that with his kid. But I do like that he called Topanga coming up for the next episode. Was it Topo Gijo? So that's going to be the next episode. So those are my thoughts on number 3. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time.